Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the November 16th work session of the Salisbury City Council. We have 4 items on the agenda tonight, and the first item up is an ordinance accepting a grant from the Wycomico County Health Department for 2 commercial floor cleaners. Deputy Chief Gladwell will make the presentation. Jimmy?
Thank you, Council President. How are you guys doing this evening?
Good, thank you.
Hope everyone's doing well. Praying for your loved one, Miss Gregory. Be keeping you in our thoughts. The fire department's at it again. As you guys are aware, Wycomico County Health Department's received a fund allocation from the Coronavirus Relief Fund, and that's to help support medical responses and cleanings and cleansings and all the sorts of things that go along with COVID. So we've reached out to several vendors and contacted the health department and have come up with a memo of understanding to purchase 2 commercial floor scrubbers, one for Station 1 and one for Station 2. We currently have this technology at Station 16, but the machines are large and cumbersome. They're too big to move from one station to another. It's not practical to do that. Somebody would probably get hurt trying to move the thing. So we've been able to, I reached out and contacted several different vendors and made contact with them and got some bids back and some pricing back, and then submitted the grant request or the funding request, excuse me, to the health department and got that approved. So we have a total cost of the project for both units plus replacement batteries, they're battery operated, is $14,590, and that has been approved by the Wycomico County Health Department to fund.
Fantastic, fantastic. Questions here from the council members? Mr. Boda?
No, thanks for going after that.
Ms. Blake?
This is wonderful, and I'm very grateful that the fire department is constantly seeking grants and other ways to enhance, getting materials that they need. No objections.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson?
I commend the fire department for all that they do, and as Angela said, all the grants they seek to keep funds down for the city. So yes, I have no question, no doubt about it. I'm for it.
Thank you. Mrs. Gregory?
Just reiterate what everybody else said, and that this is a fantastic project to get money for. So awesome. Thank you.
Okay, then we'll put this on the agenda, Mrs. Nichols, for next week. Thank you, Deputy Chief, and keep up the good work. I know the budget time's coming up and we'll be looking at the other side of it, but you guys are really helping out and we appreciate it.
We'll do what we can, Chief. I'm thinking I'm talking to Chief Tall. I gave you a field promotion. I'm sorry. Thank you very much for your support.
All right.
Have a good evening.
Take care. Be safe.
Yes, sir.
Next up, we have the Ross Developers Agreement, Department of Infrastructure and Development Director, Amanda Pollock. Good afternoon, Amanda.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm here today to talk about the Ross Developers Agreement. In January, City Council passed a resolution to accept the developers agreement at that time, and we said that we would come back if there was any substantive changes. So there are a few changes that were proposed by First Move Properties. So I wanted to run through what those were, and then if acceptable, we will take this back to a legislative meeting. So the cover memo identified all the changes, and I wanted to highlight the key ones. First off, the number of parking permits was increased from 256 to 278. The length of term of the agreement was increased to 8 years, and the length of the renewal term is 4 years. And the agreement now states that whatever the student parking rate is for the city, that's what would be used for the student parking. And I want to draw your attention in particular to that paragraph in the agreement. It's paragraph 4, purchase price for parking garage permits. So when and if the city passes a student rate, the student rate would apply for anyone who's a student. So we defined in the agreement what is a student, and those are full-time students at Salisbury University, UMES, or Warwick. We're requiring that the developer maintain a list of all the students and that the city could audit that list at any time so that we could verify that the student rate is used for actual students. So those are actually the main changes. There were some other inserts. The effective dates of the agreement was inserted, and now First Move Properties owns the parcels. So that is also, that wording was changed a little bit. And today we have Nick Simpson from First Move Properties and Michael Sullivan in the work session if you have any specific questions that I can't answer.
Thank you, Amanda. Questions from the council members? Mr. Boda?
Have we talked about student parking rate? Has that been discussed at all or batted around?
So I believe that all the parking rates are being looked at for the city, that field operations is heading up that effort. And I believe a student rate would be potentially one of the categories.
Yeah, as far I looked at it, everything looked good. And so I guess we'll be talking about that student rate coming soon. Thanks.
Amanda, as a follow-up to that, would that appear for in the next budget? Or would it be done before that?
I'm going to look to Julia for that. I'm not sure.
Andy, you disappeared. Yeah, we will bring that to you before the next budget. That'll be in the coming weeks, I think.
Okay. Next, Ms. Jackson.
No questions, no comments. Everything's fine.
Thank you. Ms. Blake.
No questions, just one comment. I did go online and preview of the space. I'm very impressed with the space. The apartments look good up there, and I wish I was a student again. It looks nice.
Thank you. Mrs. Gregory?
No questions and comments, although Angela, my daughter, I'm sure would be happy for you to take her exams for her. So
She could really become a student if she wanted to.
Thank you. Then we'll move this forward. Mrs. Nichols? Oh, I see you. Okay. Mrs. Nichols, if we can put that on the agenda for the next meeting. Thank you. Next up, we have a homeowner incentive discussion led by Deputy City Administrator Andy Kitzrow. And we also have with us Molly Hilgos from Habitat for Humanity and Director Cheryl Meadows from Salisbury Neighborhood Housing. Andy, take it away.
Thank you, President Heath. So this is part 2 of our conversation we started last work session regarding homeownership incentive discussions. The main purpose of this evening is to hear from a couple of our community partners, nonprofit organizations who are currently working in the home ownership field and working with families to help increase home ownership with targeted populations. I think this is going to be a crucial component of our decision-making moving forward to not only incorporate one, if not both of these organizations into some of our redevelopment or rehab discussions, but also just to have council have a understanding of what is currently out there, what programs are currently existing within in Salisbury, and what we could potentially as a council do to assist or enable more of what they are doing. I don't want to steal their thunder. I think the order is Molly first and then Cheryl, and I believe both of them have presentations that they'd like to present, which were included in your packet. So I'd like to turn it over to Molly Hilgos to introduce herself to those who may not know her, and then allow her to share her screen and go through her presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Andy. Thank you all for this and for this invitation and the opportunity to share a little bit about what we do and some ideas to increase homeownership and retain homeownership. So let me see if I can share my screen here. You guys seeing it? Ah. Why am I only seeing that? Let me stop sharing. Let's try again. Nope. You see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Good.
excellent. Excellent. I've got two screens going on here. Okay, so our mission is to build communities, homes, and hope. And so the building hope here is the topic of conversation. We have built 70 homes in Wicomico County. We'll be selling the 70th home December 4th to Dolores Jones as part of the CDBG program. So we've been in business as a nonprofit serving since 1987. We also have an aging in place roof and repair program. It used to be called neighborhood revitalization, but the constituents really didn't understand what that meant. So about 5 years ago, we renamed it to Roof and Home Repair Program. And we are serving primarily homeowners that are 62 and older. However, if a homeowner is low income and needs a critical home repair, we will also look at that, that person's application, because retaining home ownership is critical in the city limits as well as throughout Wicomico County. Currently, we have 7 partner families wanting to be future homeowners. And as I mentioned, this is the next home we'll sell, 504 Tangier Street, which is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home for $158,000. Their mortgage will only be $650 a month, and that includes taxes and insurance. And just to kind of give you some background, when Miss Jones applied to be a homeowner, her rent was over $950 a month, and she had to work 3 jobs just to make that rent payment on time. For this project, it cost us more than what we can sell it for. And so this, you have this, but it obviously $185. We're already a nonprofit, but we're losing money most of the time with our affordable home projects. And most recently, the project we're working on, we have found that the lumber costs have tripled since COVID. Not sure if you guys are aware, but that is, that's going to be a detriment to all home builders in the area with these rising costs. Currently, this is our plan for building. The house, 634 East Church Street, that's a recycled house. We bought that house back from a Habitat homeowner that was, she was not able to make it up the stairs anymore. And so she's now in senior housing. We bought that back and we turned it back. We kept it as affordable home ownership and sold it to a partner family. Again, there's 504 Tangier. We demolished 2 houses on Martin Street this year, and we'll be combining those 2 lots because the lot sizes are just so small that it just makes sense to combine them to be able to build a better home for our partner families. We're in the process of rehabbing 414 Elizabeth Street. It is not unlike many of the homes that are in Church Street right now that are currently rentals. This was a rental. And when we started the rehab, we found that none of the exterior walls had insulation. And so what we thought would be a fairly easy rehab has turned into a very expensive proposition and time consuming. After we deed the 319 and 321 together, we'll start construction on 319 Martin, and then we'll start at 704 Southwest over. But as you can see here, as we go out into the future years, there's a lot of open blocks, and that means Habitat needs property. So it's been very expensive to maintain these lots as we raise money to build. So we don't take out loans to build new. We raise the money and then we build, and then we sell the home at a 0% interest to our partner family. So that's our model, and that is how we are able to keep homeownership affordable for the families. This shows you already know homeownership has been dropping in the city limits. Now we're at under 30% homeownership. It may be even less, numbers from 2016. So what we're seeing right now that there are too many barriers for renters to become homeowners. You may not be aware, but landlords can start eviction on day 6 of the month, rent being due on the 1st, grace period till the 5th, and they all start turning in their eviction failure to pay rent filings on the 6th. The ripple effect for our renters is horrible because now these cases are civil cases. They cannot be expunged, and they are out there for everybody to see. So no one has to pull credit or has to make phone calls. They can just go online and see if a renter has ever been late. So then these renters that are already low income, by the time the end of the month comes, and then they're able to pay that current month's rent plus all the fees, then the next month's rent is due and they just don't have it. So they get stuck in substandard housing. I already mentioned about older housing stock not being insulated. So then during these winter months, the cost of heat can exceed rent. We've seen that during home visits when these partner families are bundled up in winter coats because the homes are so cold. So they just can't make ends meet. Also, for folks to get into the nicer apartments that have been built with low income tax credits, there are, hold on, sorry. I'll go into it in a minute, but they do require some of them, a 5-year positive landlord reference. And then if someone's had any kind of altercation with the criminal justice system, most of these have a 7 to 10 year look back period for any kind of criminal conviction. That includes misdemeanors. So just in general, our applicants, no matter whether they're trying to become a homeowner or whether they're an existing homeowner and needing a home repair, they're having to make these difficult choices of what do they pay first, their home cost or food, healthcare in the case of our older adults. And this is just some statistics that you've seen before on nearly 30% of Salisbury residents are living in poverty. And poverty it's hard to be a homeowner when you don't have any money left at the end of the month to save. This just shows for Wicomico County median home pricing trends and income. So you really need to have higher income in order to buy a home with the current rates.
Molly, can you put that back up for a second, please?
Sure. So what this shows is that the average home price is, now again, this is a little bit dated information, but in 2018, the average home was selling for $200,000 in Wicomico County, and the median income was $71,800 required in order to be able to buy that $200,000 home.
Gotcha.
Now with our program, because we don't charge interest, we can sell a home to a family that's earning around $27,000 a year. This slide here shows more information. You can go run another scenario on, this is nhc.org, and it is the paycheck to paycheck tool. And it shows for the Salisbury market what the average annual incomes are for these, basic jobs. These are the types of people that apply to become Habitat homeowners, whether a childcare worker, a bank teller, nurse's aide, food prep worker, janitor, welder, fast food cook, equipment operator, packager, customer service rep. And this is what we see in terms of incomes. And again, the annual income needed to buy a home, $57,240 in Salisbury, but that, the incomes here. So people just don't make enough here to be able to buy a home. Oop. We have energy efficient lighting in my office, so the lights went out. Sorry about that. So I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but the poverty cycle that many residents in Salisbury live in is really difficult to escape. To survive right now, what we're seeing is that a lot of low-income families will bring other people into the home, renting rooms. They're most likely not on the lease. When the landlord finds out, that triggers a breach in the lease and leads to eviction. The overcrowding creates health consequences with COVID, not surprising. Mortgage lending underwriting. So even if someone can qualify income-wise right now, due to the extra layers of COVID underwriting, it's more difficult for people to qualify for a home loan. And I actually just bought a house in the city limits last month, and I can attest to this tightening of mortgage underwriting. And the lender actually called here 4 times to verify my employment, and that was all in 1 week. So if you can just imagine, and we have a small office. Everybody was like, "Gosh, are you going somewhere?" So homes that low income people can afford also may be in disrepair and won't pass just for the fact, peeling paint. There's all kinds of things that the house actually has to pass the underwriting also to pass for FHA loans, which only require 3.5% down. Habitat homes require 0% down. And so one of the root causes, clearly, the barrier to affordable rental housing. What we're seeing, the apartments require 4 pay stubs, a minimum credit score of around 600. Again, I mentioned about the criminal background, the look back period being 7 to 10 years, past the date of incarceration. And that is a developer rule, not a HUD rule. I've contacted HUD, I contacted Maryland DHCD to find out, especially because a lot of these properties have been built with low income tax credits. If there was something they could do to reduce this look back period and make the rental housing more accessible. And they said that that is really on the developers. Now, other municipalities and states have taken action and have legally, through the courts or legislation, have reduced that. In the state of Michigan, it's 24 months look back. In Hawaii, it's only 12 months. So that's something that could happen with the right advocacy. Other things here, if an applicant currently owes Delmarva Power and can't get power in their name, then they would be denied. If on their credit, if the applicant owes another landlord, they would be denied. And then it's confusing for applicants when some apartments have different buckets of availability, and that's how they structured building them. But it does make it confusing when there's a big banner flying that says rent here, but then you call and there's nothing available for that person. Additional challenges, pre-COVID, currently that have long-term repercussions. The median income in the city keeps falling. That's not good for people wanting to be homeowners. We already talked about the low-income tax credit. Multi-generational housing is a big need. People, we're seeing 3 generations, even in Habitat homes, where the grandmother is taking care of the kids because the family can't afford daycare. So they need larger homes in order to survive. And then for our older adults that need repair programs, there are programs that exist, and I know Cheryl's going to talk about that. The barriers, there are many barriers, and Cheryl can probably attest to this. The DHCD applications are complex, especially for older adults. They have requirements. So if there's been any change with FEMA and flood maps, then flood insurance is required before they can assist. And if the person can't afford flood insurance, then they would be denied. If the home is already too far gone and insurance has been canceled, then they would be denied from those programs. There are some credit score requirements. There's home equity requirements, affordability. Many of them have, there's loans and grants that can be confusing for those older adults. There's deed issues, especially if a home has not been officially transferred from one generation to another. If the person living there is the daughter or son, what have you, and the owner's passed away, all those deed issues have to be resolved before state or federal grants can assist. Again, if deterioration, if the home is too far gone, they would likely be denied or be difficult to get approved. Family pressure not to have a lien put on the property for the repair. Many of the programs don't, they won't allow repair if there's a reverse mortgage on the property. And again, there's, the Cheryl's going to weigh in on some of that. More challenges. We already talked about the cost of building new keeps rising. Our CDBG funding from the city of Salisbury, while we love it, it's amazing when we have it. It's not consistent from year to year. So that's kind of, to me, low-hanging fruit. The cost of rehab can be more than building new for us. The small infill city lots are not desirable to our partner families. They want larger lots where they can fence in the yard. They want to park the cars in the driveway, not on the street. And again, they want larger homes for the multi-generational. They also complain about nuisance rental properties, and that makes those homes in those neighborhoods difficult to sell. Okay. So what can the city of Salisbury do to help Habitat for Humanity of Wycomico County? This is the good stuff. Any lots that you can donate to us that would meet the needs, meaning that larger lot that our homeowners are looking for, our future homeowners are looking for, or lots that adjoin current lots that we have. There's one actually that I think the city could take back in receivership, maybe on Elizabeth Street, that would be perfect. And I've been talking with Ron Strickler about that. The next item on here can be a little confusing if you're not familiar with the mortgage industry, but the city could create a second mortgage program to help fund new Habitat homes. And I know that Salisbury Neighborhood Housing has one of these, which is great. But this could be in addition to that. And it would, the second mortgage lien would stay attached to the property until that homeowner decides to sell or transfers. And so there could be a recapture clause where the city would recoup any lost potential interest that would adjust for the increase in the equity that that house would accrue over time. And this would not only reduce the temptation of a homeowner to flip the home, but it doesn't impact the balance sheet for the city of Salisbury. So yet, while it would be cash out, there would be then an asset back on the books for the city of Salisbury. And I could show you guys, another time talk about some examples of other cities that have put this in place. USDA Rural 504 has a similar program where they don't require a down payment, but they do have a recapture clause if there's at some point. I really liked when Andy was talking about the land trust and land banks. Other habitats around the country have worked with municipalities and counties with that. Now's a great time because the cost of land is pretty cheap in the city. More ideas, property tax abatement while we're developing properties would be very helpful. The city could also encourage landlords to donate distressed properties to us using the DHCD Maryland Tax Credit Program. That does take a little bit of time, and time meaning usually a couple years. There is a little bit of money outlay on the part of the landlord for the appraisal, but then they get half of the value of the property back as a Maryland tax credit on their Maryland return, which, if it's a $60,000 house, that means a $30,000 Maryland tax credit. It's like cash. So landlords should be really eager to learn more about that. We have a HabiCorp reentry program right now, and our graduates from that program, they we provide a 6-month federal bond guarantee for any employer that rehires them. Oh, there goes the light. Come on, Delmar, power, turn back on. All right, here we go. So it'd be really great if the city had some openings to would be open to interviewing and hiring those participants. They're really great people. Many of them have just gotten involved with opioids at some point and made some bad choices. They're good people though, and yeah. And again, having the city be an advocate to reduce the look back period for the background checks for low income tax credits would be great. In terms of what the city can do to support homeownership, there is some examples that other habitats around the country have done. A roof and repair program similar to what Memphis, Tennessee has created. The only qualifications, you have to be an homeowner, you have to owner occupy it, you have to be current on your taxes and be low income. And the benefits is that it helps the older adult age in place. They feel happier and less stressed, and so their medical costs are less, they're healthier. It increases the equity in their home, it increases the property value, which helps positive impact on tax base. And you know, the whole neighborhood looks better. And so people wanna, well, wow, you know, if my neighbor, if Mrs. Jones is gonna put a new roof on, maybe I need to put a new roof on. And then lastly, this just shows you the projects that we've worked on and sold since 2015, and the positive tax base of 1.4 million as a result. That's it.
Thank you very much, Molly. Appreciate it. So a lot of information to grasp, and taking a lot of notes. And I guess there's a lot of things we have the ability to look at, and I'm sure we will at upcoming sessions. But thank you very much for the presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any questions for Molly before we go on to Cheryl?
I do.
Okay.
Molly, why hasn't Habitat ever concentrated on that area, the Fitzwater Street, Hill Street, 1st and 2nd Street area, and rehabbing homes?
In terms of rehabbing and reselling?
Yes.
I'm not sure, other than we have a couple lots on Delaware Avenue, but they're in the 100-year floodplain.
Mm-hmm.
And my concern was that low-income families would have a difficult time being able to afford the flood insurance. And we had other lots that we could build on that didn't require flood insurance. And so that, you know, that was just the direction.
Okay, but what about the other areas? Because I've known Habitat to be in existence for, I know it has to be like 40 years or more in Salisbury or more. And I've always known them to concentrate over actually on the Westover Hill Street area. But I've never known them to go in this particular area, not just like the Delaware Avenue. I know that's a flood area. Part of that is a flood area. But I do know that Hill Street, 2nd Street, Pearl Street, and then Martin, I do know that homes that have been put up for like tax sales or either families just abandon them, neglect them. So I'm just wondering.
Well, over the last couple years, because we had so many lots that we were focusing on building on, every time we take on another property, we have to maintain it. So we have to the grass, you know, if it's boarded up, you know, every year you have to, you know, file up, spend money and put a rehabilitation plan in place with the code enforcement. It's complicated. And so if we don't have a solid, you know, plan, why take on that extra risk?
I do understand that, but my thing is, why all the other areas but never this area? That's my main focus. Why never this area in all these years? you know, Habitat has never gone in this area to rehab. And I know you told me about the Delaware Avenue and the flood insurance. I understand that. And I'm not trying to beat you up, Molly, because you do a great job. You do a very good job. I commend you. But I just want to know why Habitat is.
I mean, I'm in my 6th year, and so what happened prior to me, there's not a lot of record keeping, you know, on.
Well, would you be interested in this area?
I mean, we need to start acquiring properties. So if the lots are big enough, if we can make it work,
Okay.
we're really looking for larger lots.
Thank you, Molly. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
Thank you, April.
You're welcome.
Mr. Boda, any questions?
No, just thank you for all the work you do.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thanks for supporting us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Molly.
Angela?
It was great information, and I do think we've, as a council, have been given a lot of different avenues to talk about to help make this more affordable for our citizens here in Salisbury. That was a great presentation, Molly. Thank you.
It was.
You're welcome. And I can get
Very
more
nice.
information on what the Memphis, Tennessee, their whole procedure. I just need to know who the point person would be that would want to collect that.
Just send that, Molly, send that to Kim and she can make sure we get it.
Okay, that sounds great.
Michelle, questions or comments?
There were questions. I think there was just a lot of really great information, a lot of ways that we can, as the council, can help these, families in this area, and the home ownership and the income inequality that we've got. I think that's something that we can focus on as well. So that's something I'd like to explore.
Yeah, and the one thing I didn't touch on, but I think it's the more research I do and the more families that I meet, it seems like this whole incarceration piece and the number of families separated because of incarceration, and when they try to get back together, they can't access decent housing together. And then so they're separate and trying to manage households. It's just too expensive.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Molly. Good job. And I see a couple of things that really aren't that difficult from our perspective. Obviously, this next year, the rest of this year and next year, no one has any idea about what funding is going to be like. We know we're going to be in. That's the only thing that keeps me up at night, to be honest, is the revenue, and we're going to have enough to keep doing what we're doing. So we're going to have to look at that very carefully. But there are some things on here that don't cost a lot of money. It just takes some action. And I think that's where we should start. So thanks again. Cheryl, you're up.
All right, thank you. I'm going to try to share my screen. If not, Andy's on standby to help me. Can everybody see it?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. All right. See if I can get the slideshow to start. Okay. In case there's somebody on the Zoom that doesn't know me, my name is Cheryl Meadows. I'm the Executive Director at Salisbury Neighborhood Housing Services. And I have been here with the organization since its inception 27 years ago. Salisbury NHS was incorporated in 1994. We are chartered by NeighborWorks America, which is a congressionally chartered nonprofit. And we are one of about 240 NeighborWorks organizations across the country. But we're the only one on Maryland's Eastern Shore. We are also a HUD certified counseling agency. We are a certified full cycle lender, which means we take someone from the very beginning of the process all the way through settlement and then are still there to assist them if they need our help after they close on the home. And we are also licensed mortgage loan originators registered with the nationwide mortgage licensing system. Our mission is to cultivate sustainable neighborhoods with partnerships and lending that inspire self-reliance, growth, optimism. And we do that by offering loan products and services that provide opportunities for home ownership, financial education, and preservation. So our goals are to increase and preserve home ownership. And after the housing crash in 2008, preservation really became our main line of business. We were given several rounds of funding through the National Foreclosure Mitigation Program to assist homeowners that were facing foreclosure in Wicomico, Somerset, and Worcester counties. And we continue to serve all three counties with foreclosure prevention. We also aim to reduce neighborhood blight, to provide resources for home improvement, to encourage private investment by banks, homeowners, commercial users, and landlords, to foster sustainable change through training and leadership development, and to develop self-sustaining programs. And when we first started, we had 3 target neighborhoods that we served, and that was Camden, the West Side neighborhood, and the Doverdale Church Street area. Over the last 27 years, we've expanded our reach. We now have 4 target neighborhoods that we serve in the city. And we added Newtown, Johnson's Lake, and we still serve Somerset and Worcester County with our educational programs and with some down payment and closing cost assistance loan programs. But our focus remains on our 4 core target neighborhoods. I'm sure most of you are aware of the benefits of home ownership. There have been several studies that have shown the benefits. It's a leveraged investment. There are tax advantages. Your monthly mortgage payment is kind of like a forced savings account. Relatively speaking, your monthly payment is stable unless your taxes and insurance go up. It adds to social stability, improved educational performance by the children, lower crime rates. You have increased interaction with your neighbors, and businesses are able to attract and retain talent. Unfortunately, the reality is 1 in 3 U.S. households struggle with meeting their monthly housing obligations. And these numbers are actually pre-COVID, so I'm sure that the numbers are higher. 16 million households pay more than 50% of their income on housing. Families must often choose between quality and affordability. They may be forced to live outside the city limits, which leads to transportation problems, and they feel disconnected from the area they work in, and sometimes have a lack of responsibility to the community. These are some of the challenges that we see here in our office to families that are trying to get into home ownership. They have a poor credit history. They have a lack of financial literacy and understanding of the home buying process. And Molly's already talked about the high cost of rent that's making it difficult for people to save for a down payment. The housing stock in the city limits is older. It's expensive to heat and cool, and the renovations of those properties can be very expensive. A lot of our clients have a ton of student loan debt, and that's another big barrier, in addition to the lower credit score that is hampering people's ability to become a homeowner. And again, the quality versus affordability issue. From an organizational standpoint, the challenges that we see are a low inventory of homes for sale. When I checked this morning, I think there were like 219 active listings. And the price range that most of our clients that we serve are shopping in are between $135,000 and $175,000. Those properties are going pretty quickly. The cost of rehabbing older homes, historic district regulations, finding creditworthy borrowers. Some of the funding sources that we tap into aren't very flexible, and we need more flexible sources that can help us with gap financing. Molly's already talked about the limited CDBG funds, where the city is an entitlement jurisdiction. The city receives a set amount every year. It's typically in the $300,000 range, which doesn't go very far if you have several nonprofits that are applying for funding out of that pot, especially if the city has some of their own projects, that they want to address with those funds. Lead paint reduction is a huge expense. A lack of vacant city building lots that are suitable for the houses that we build in conjunction with Parkside High School's CTE program. And there's also challenges in purchasing foreclosed properties, because a lot of times the mortgages are held or they've been taken back by a bank that's not even in this state. And it's just very difficult to get a live person on the phone and try to negotiate a sale price. But despite all those challenges, there are opportunities. Interest rates are still really low. There are a variety of programs out there to help with down payment and closing costs. As an organization that's working to increase homeownership, we are able to adapt to current community needs, like we're doing right now with the city of Salisbury managing their rental assistance program. Rentals are not typically something NHS is involved in. We're more geared toward homeownership, but this is a need that the community really had. We were more than happy to assist with this program, and we're looking forward to the next round of funding because there are still so many people that are in need. As I mentioned before, we're a member of the NeighborWorks America Network, so we can tap into technical assistance from other organizations and see what they're doing in their community that might be able to be replicated here. And there's always a potential for new or expanded partnerships. We already work with Habitat, Village of Hope, Salisbury University, and local government. I'm just going to run through these really quickly. On our educational side, we offer homebuyer education workshops. We do group sessions. We have an online program. We do financial fitness workshops, individual credit and budget counseling, and foreclosure counseling and intervention. All of those services, except for the group education, are free to anybody that wants to participate. On the lending side, we do second mortgages for down payment and closing costs. If you live in the city limits, there is no income restriction. Anybody can apply for one of our down payment or closing cost loans. All other areas outside of the city limits must be below 120% of the area median income. We do straight closing cost loans up to $15,000. Again, in the city, no income restrictions. If you're in the city, your interest rate will be a point lower than what your first mortgage interest rate is. In all the other cases, we just match whatever the first mortgage rate is. And we also offer a rehab loan for existing homeowners. Now, this program is only available to city residents. They can borrow up to $25,000 at an interest rate of 1%. Some of the other homeownership incentives we offer are down payment and closing cost grants. Now, these two programs for city and county are restricted to lower income families at 80% and below. area median income. We partner with Salisbury University to offer a Live Near Your Work program. Again, that is only available to employees of SU. And then we also work with clients that are buying a home through Salisbury Neighborhood Housing to make sure they're aware of the city's tax abatement program. Rehab programs for existing homeowners. I just talked about our 1% program. Salisbury Neighborhood Housing also administers the state's suite of rehab products, which includes the Maryland Housing Rehab Program, lead hazard reduction, and the STAR program. Molly did talk about the barriers to the state programs. They do take a very long time. The applications are very complex. Older homeowners don't want to have a lien on their property because when they pass, they don't want, you know, their children to be left with having to pay off the loan. It's difficult to get, it's overwhelming. So people bring in, you know, the information that's required kind of piecemeal, and then you have to turn around and ask them for something that you've already asked them for because the information is 6 months old. So that's part of the reason we developed our own rehab program at 1% to try to, you know, entice people that may be able to afford an interest rate at 1% to apply through us, because we can get it through much faster than the state can. Just a little snapshot of our numbers over the last 5 years. From 2016 to 2020, you can see the number of new homeowners that were created each of those 5 years, the number of people that participated in our group education class, the number of foreclosure clients that we saw. Now you see in FY20, it dropped down to 20, but that's only because of the moratorium that was put on the foreclosures due to COVID, and we expect those numbers to really spike after the first of the year. And these are new cases. We probably are serving 75 to 80 families at any one time, because a lot of families are able to get a loan modification, and they're usually on a 3-month trial. So we keep those cases open until they have completed that trial modification. And then the individual counseling clients, those are the totals for each of the years. And then we also do acquisition, rehab, and new construction. And this year we completed 2 of those. And then we have the total investment listed for each of the last 5 fiscal years. I mentioned we do acquisition, rehab, and over the last 5 years, we have done 10 properties. They've all been renovated now and sold to homeowners. This is just some before and after pictures. This is actually the house we bought from the city's receivership program. This was on North Division Street. So you can see what we were dealing with when we bought it. This house was actually cut up into 3 units. But it looked beautiful when we finished, and the homeowner is very happy there. This was Ohio Avenue. This is the one we just finished on Maryland Avenue. And this one goes to settlement on Friday. And then we have a new construction program that we do with Parkside High School. We've been doing this for about 20 years now. The students build a house for us every year, and then we move it to one of our vacant lots. And probably over the last 10 years, we've been focusing on Rose Street and Delaware Avenue on the west side, because we were able to purchase pretty much the whole block and demolish all the properties that were boarded up there. And once the students complete it, Expert House Movers moves that house to one of our lots. You can see the quality work that the students do. The houses are beautiful. So now I'm at my slide for what can the city do to help NHS further home ownership. I know that especially during COVID times, we've been on lots of Zoom meetings talking about having a comprehensive database of all the resources that are available. I know the Vulnerable Populations Task Force has started to work on that because I'm assisting with it, but if the city could help us create that database and get it on their website, I think that would be very helpful. And maybe include a link or a notice of where people can find those resources in a city mailing, like the water bills that go out. We would love to have some flexibility with the historic district's guidelines. We've really had a couple of our projects that were held up and took way longer than they should have. And I'm of the opinion that just because something is old doesn't necessarily mean it's historic. The city could also help promote your own tax abatement program for homeowners for a property that was previously a rental. I know it's on your website, but it did take me a while to find where that was. So maybe just, pushing that out on social media occasionally that's available. Maybe consider becoming a participating employer in the Live Near Your Work program for city employers. We also used to have an IDA program, which is an individual development account program. And we had a few employers that participated, but I'd like to see this program revived. It's a matched savings program. And previously we did a $3,000 limit. So if the person that was participating could save $1,500, we would match that $1,500. There are very strict parameters what they can use it for. And I would suggest in this case, they could use it for down payment and closing costs or for a security deposit for a rental unit. Again, provide public service announcements on social media platforms, specifically on how to recognize scams, because we're starting to see that again with people that are getting behind on their mortgages or their rent. They're seeing these commercials on television, call our number and we'll save you from losing your home. And they're paying these people money up front and nothing ever gets done. They need to call a HUD certified counselor who's going to do everything they can to keep them in that house, and they're going to do it for free. And then again, just to continue to support our grant applications for state and federal funding. The city's been a great partner to NHS and has really helped us get a lot of our projects done. And that is it. Did anybody have any questions?
Mr. Bode, we'll start with you. Do you have any questions or comments?
No questions. Just great information from. I think there's a lot of resources there for people, and just the education piece of it is really key to get people on the right track. So thank you for all your work, and we'll look to see how we can continue supporting you.
Thank you.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes, I'm going to present her with the same question that I just asked Molly, but I also want to commend them also, Salisbury Neighborhood Housing, for all the work they've done. I've seen your work on the west side of Salisbury, Rose Street, Tanger Street, and plenty of other places. I'm sure you've done a remarkable job. But in the 27 years you said, why hasn't this Fishwater Street, Hill Street, 2nd Street, Pearl Street been concentrated on as far as Salisbury neighborhood housing?
Well, about 20 years ago, we did convene a group to try and buy and renovate the row houses there on Fitzwater Street. And most of those units are owned by different owners. Could not get any consensus between the group that owned that they would be willing to sell. And we knew it was going to be difficult going in, having so many different owners to try to agree. So unfortunately, that plan, wish never went anywhere. We have done some other rehab over there. We had a landlord donate a property to us on 2nd Street that we renovated and sold. We've done some other rehab projects through the state Maryland Housing Rehab Program on 1st Street, and I can't remember the name of the street that runs by the market that's on the corner of Delaware.
West Main?
West Main, yes. Done a couple of rehab projects there. Little community cleanup on that vacant lot across from the store. But like, I mean, it is piecemeal. You know, we haven't been able to make a big impact like we've done on Rose Street. And part of that is because the concentrations of rentals are so high over there. So I know that's not.
No, it's not what I really wanted to hear, but
Right.
good imperative information, and I appreciate all you do. I just want to make sure that this area is not neglected in any way. And if anything that we can do, neighborhood housing can do, or Habitat of America can do to help us rebuild this community, I would appreciate it.
I understand.
And your information was very good. Very good.
And the, landlords are also eligible to apply for those state rehab programs. Now, they do have to agree to not raise the rent for a certain period of time, but they are eligible to get lower interest rate loans through those state programs.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, April.
You're welcome.
Ms. Blake?
That was a great presentation, Cheryl, and I just, the Salisbury Neighborhood House has put many people in homes, and I know a lot of families I work with through the school system. I've referred for the counseling service, and I think 2 families actually ended up purchasing homes, and that was very exciting. And I think that the list that you put forth with the things that the city can do to help is very doable things. And I'm looking forward to putting that in motion. Anything that we can do to help with our housing and to build our community is definitely what we're looking for.
Thank you, April.
That wasn't April.
I'm sorry. That was
Angela.
Angela. Sorry, Angela. And I'm looking right at you when I called you April.
Thank you, Angela. Michelle?
I just want to agree that there's some really fantastic stuff. This is a really thorough presentation, and I appreciate you putting it together for us and basically walking us through all the things that we can do to help. And I'd love to see us do as many of these as we can.
Thank you, Michelle. For both Cheryl and Molly, I've got a ton of notes and action items, and I think that the best we can do is, and what I would suggest we do, is get this on another work session agenda, and then prioritize the things that we believe we can take action on. Take the low-hanging fruit first, get going on what we can get going on immediately, and then prioritize what the next steps are as we move towards a coordinated effort. Let's use that term, a coordinated effort to resolve some of these issues. So thank you both for excellent presentations.
Yes.
You've given us a lot of food for thought. And the other thing, and I think, I know Deputy City Administrator and Acting Mayor Julia Glanz is on the call. We had talked about also starting to get some landlords involved in a meeting with some of these key landlords to get their buy-in and input as to how we can all contribute to this effort that we're trying to do. Again, it's been a very good session on this topic. And
Yes.
thank you everybody for your participation. Next up on the agenda, we have the Horizon program, and Deputy City Administrator Andy Kitrow is going to lead that one. Andy?
Thank you, President Heath. As follow-up to our conversation a couple work sessions ago, what was included in the packet this time was the actual resolution that we'd like to present to council on the 23rd to have it passed. Also included was a memo further detailing some of the highlights of the program, which was discussed previously. I can run through some of those highlights and the goals. I think everybody understands what the goals are. We have 2 targeted development zones that we're going after, which is the Central Business District, basically what I refer to as the island of downtown Salisbury, and then the Riverfront Redevelopment District. There's an exhibit with a map included in the memo. Again, we are really focusing on large-scale residential development projects. So the project needs to have a threshold right now of an appraised increased value of $10 million from what it's currently appraised at. And it needs to be residentially focused. We had a couple brief conversations prior to this meeting about in the program application defining that threshold of residential. Like, what does that percentage of development need to be? So we may refine that just so it's very clear on a qualifying component to the application. Also, just for edification, we brought this up in the presentation. We included a tax abatement program comparison, which included some of the other popular tax abatement programs that exist, and how the Horizon program really ticks off all the boxes that we are interested in targeting with this program. One thing that is interesting to note, it's not listed in the resolution, but it is part of the future ordinance that would be presented to council, would be this sunset period. So this program, the way we have it written in our legislation, would be a 10-year program that sunsets in 10 years. And after 3 years, the city would be able to review and negotiate if they wanted to modify the terms of the program, either change the tax rate schedule, the qualifying requirements, or even the district that the Horizon program encompasses. So we'd have an ability to revisit that in the near future. So we wouldn't be held to this for the next decade. Again, we've presented this to several different developers. They are all really excited about this program. We've had some great inroads in with Wicomico County, and we think they may be coming on board as a partner, which would be would basically double the incentive program locally. So we have a real opportunity to change the current landscape of downtown Salisbury with this program, and really getting a lot more people downtown, living downtown, which only improves the economy of all of those new businesses and retailers that are down there. So really appreciate the council's support of this to this point, and I'm looking forward to any additional comments at this time.
Thank you, Andy. Questions or comments from council members? Mr. Boda?
I think it's a very impactful program, and I think, we're in the middle of this renaissance, and this is a key piece of the puzzle as we redefine our downtown and bring more residents. It's about beds and heads, and when you have the people down there and they can support where they live, businesses will flourish. So this is a key part of it, and I say let's move forward with it.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson?
I concur again with Mir, so I'm along with it. I go with it.
Thank you, April.
You're welcome.
Ms. Blake?
I concur. Move it forward.
Thank you, Ms. Blake. Mrs. Gregory.
I think this will be great for the businesses downtown, and the community at large. So move it forward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gregory. I only have a comment, and that comment is that the success of what we've done so far depends on feet on the street. And that's what we're going to get from this. We're going to get feet on the street. And I think it's been done well. And I'm happy to hear that the county is looking to help and participate, and that would be fantastic. So Mrs. Nichols, let's get this on the agenda and move it forward.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That concludes the items on the agenda. At this time, I'll ask for any closing remarks from council members. Mr. Boda?
Just want to thank everybody for tonight. Thanks, grateful for the presentations by two organizations that are invested in our community. We appreciate all their hard work. And that stuff doesn't take, it's not stuff you do overnight. This is stuff that takes years of planning. It's a property at a time. It's educating a client at a time. And that's, one person at a time. It helps improve our community. As the holidays approach, I want to encourage everybody to shop local. Make sure we shop at our local businesses, support our local businesses. I want to thank Michelle for the Zoom background. I apologize that Rudy Giuliani is not in the picture, but this was the only one that she had for me, so I appreciate it. And I'll see everybody next week.
Thank you, Mr. Boda. Ms. Jackson?
Yes. I'm just asking everyone to continue to be safe. Not only protect others, but also protect yourself. COVID is spiking.
You could
And it's,
put this.
I have many friends and family and other people that I do know here in the city of Salisbury and abroad that have contracted it and are fighting for their lives. So people, please take this serious, because it is serious. It's not a joke. I mean, I've had many people who say to me that, oh, COVID's nothing. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So protect yourself, wear your mask, make sure you wear a different mask every day, not the same mask. Make sure you sanitize, wash your hands. Make sure you social distance. Stay 6 feet away from anyone. Make sure most of the time, if you don't have to go out, don't go out. Stay home. If you don't have anything to do, rest your body, but also protect yourself and others. Please, please, please wear your mask and protect yourself. This is all I have to say, because we're possibly going into another shutdown. And what are we going to do? So I'm just saying, please, please protect yourselves. And you ladies, Molly and Cheryl, you did a wonderful job. I don't see Cheryl here. Yeah, I do see her. You did a wonderful job on your presentations. I appreciate everything you do. Don't think I don't, because I do. And I support you wholeheartedly. Continue to do your work and do it well as you have. Thank you for everything that you presented here today. Thank you.
Thank you, April. Angela?
Just what a great session. I think this has a lot of options in helping our housing and build our home ownership. And of course, if you're healthy enough, just please donate blood.
Thank you. Michelle?
I just want to thank folks who have sent their well wishes to my son. He's doing better. We're not out of the woods yet, but we're getting there. So I appreciate it. And just really second what April said. I know everybody wants to get together with their family this Thanksgiving, but a family gathering now may mean that you might not have a family member come to the next one. So please, please, please be very careful. Wear your mask, social distance, do Thanksgiving over Zoom, that sort of thing. So please, please, please be careful, be safe, wear your mask, wash your hands, take every precaution you possibly can.
Thank you, Michelle. I concur with what my fellow council members have already said. For my family, we are doing a virtual Thanksgiving. We will not be all together in one room like we normally are. And I think that if you look at the numbers in the United States, it's scary.
Mhm.
It is very scary. And if the predictions come true and we start in getting 2 million a week, which is what some of the predictions are, 2 million deaths a week,
Mhm.
we're going to have real serious problems. So please heed everybody's advice and wear a mask and be safe.
Mhm.
That's all I have.
Jack, can I say one
Yes.
more thing?
Certainly.
Get tested. Please get tested because you're walking around here, some of you, and don't even know that you have it. Please get tested because some people are asymptomatic and don't realize they have it. So call the health department, make an appointment, Wycomico County Health Department or Somerset County Health Department, Dorchester County Health Department, whatever health department, go to it and get tested, please.
Thanks, April.
You're welcome.
Acting Mayor, Deputy City Administrator.
I echo everybody's comments. Thank you to Molly and Cheryl. I've as well have a bunch of notes, and I'm excited to connect on some of those quick things we can tackle right away and start planning for the future. And thank you for your support for Horizons. Moving forward, I think it's going to be, we spent $12 million on downtown. We've got to continue to make sure that we have development happen there. So I think we're on the right path. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Everybody be safe. Take care. Michelle, we're praying for your son. Keep the faith and everybody be safe.
Mhm.
The meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.